Good afternoon, guys. Dr. Ken Nordberg here again with another fireside hunting seminar. You know, the last time we met, we talked about hunting boots, and I'm really surprised at all the messages, all the letters I've been getting about hunting boots. Real interest in what I had to say, and then some people even said, you know, what kind of a jacket do you wear? You know, not every hunter following my YouTube seminars is an old veteran. And many are, but there's a lot of them that are just getting started. And I can kind of imagine, you know, going through all these seminars, how confusing it might be, you know, overwhelming it might be to a newcomer. Holy cow, there's so much to know to go deer hunting. Yeah. Well, if you're going to be a really good one, yeah, there's lots to know. Well, I was thinking that there's probably as many people who aren't quite sure about what they should be wearing when they go deer hunting as there are people that aren't sure about the boots they should have. And I think that's true of a lot of old veteran hunters as well. I know people who've been complaining for years about not having the right boots and not the right clothes for deer hunting and having trouble finding what they really wanted to have and that kind of thing. So there's, you know, over the years I've developed a list of the kind of things I want to wear for different circumstances while hunting whitetails. So for me, there's no one set of clothing I wear while deer hunting. And I'm a bull hunter. I've been a bull hunter way back since 1960. So, you know, the bull hunting season that is starting in September and on into October and first few days of November. The temperature can be quite different than where I hunt up near the Canadian border, where it gets as cold as 27 below zero, not every year by any means, but once in a while, and snowy and frigid winds blowing and quite a variety of weather. In the last dozen years or so, we've had a lot of opening weekends that were dry, no snow, and warm. Last year was a good example of it. My son Dave got a nice buck on opening morning. Well, the temperature by noon that day got up to 70 degrees, which meant get out the table and let's butcher this deer. And you get a bunch of guys helping, and it probably took only about an hour to cut that deer up, boning it. You know, in deer camp we usually just bone them. And we don't cut into the brain cavity or the spinal cord anymore. But anyway, it doesn't take long, and then get all the package done in freezer bags and on ice. And maybe run to town and get some dry ice as well, which in a good cooler can last 5, 6, 7 days. So things like that you have to do when it's really warm. But the point is, it can be really warm when we hunt. So, like I said, one set of clothing or boots isn't perfect for the whole time we hunt whitetail. So we have to be prepared for warm, excessively cold, for snow, blizzard weather, really mean frigid winds, all kinds of different kinds of weather. And it can all happen in the course of one hunting season, one firearm hunting season in November. So we have to be ready for everything. Now, having been hunting whitetails for, this would be my 76th season coming up, I've gone through a lot of clothes. And I've outfitted 3 boys and 2 girls and a wife, and so I've had lots of experience on learning what I really want to wear when I'm out there deer hunting. And you know what? It's still changing. Next year I might wear something different. But to start, let's start with a hunting jacket. Okay, gang. Now, according to Farmer's Almanac and the latest weather reports, it's probably going to be unusually warm on opening day this year in November. And that doesn't surprise me. This year I'll probably start out wearing this jacket. And it's 100% polyester, and it's quilted polyester insulation on the inside. And this jacket will keep me comfortable in temperatures in the 30s and 40s, 50s. I can go out there all day. Let's say it starts out at 35 degrees in the morning, and by afternoon it's 45 or 50 degrees, and I'll be perfectly comfortable with this on. I've learned over the years, don't wear more than you have to, because if you perspire because you're too warm, especially when you're hiking to a stand site, and you end up having wet underwear, wet clothing underneath when you get there, even if the temperature is only 40 degrees, you're going to start feeling pretty miserable after a little while. Well, polyester clothing is good at wicking away moisture from your skin and drying very quickly. So when you're wearing something like this close to your skin, polyester, whether it's underwear or a jacket, chances are you aren't going to feel any ill effects from perspiring, as long as it isn't too much. Later on, when it's really cold, that can be a real serious problem. But I love this jacket. It's lightweight, easy to wear. And during our firearm hunting season, all I have to wear in addition to this is blaze orange cap, Camo Blazer orange cap, and my vest. And I'm all set. Where are you, vest? Down here. Okay, I'm all set. Now, when temperatures, like say, let's get up in the morning, and let's say you get up in the morning and it's in the 20s, you know, like 24 degrees, and it's supposed to maybe get up in the lower 30s during the day, I probably will want another layer. Now, layering is what I mentioned when we started. Layering is what I like to do. And for this jacket, I can get another 10 degrees, if I'd be out there, and another 10 degrees cooler if I add this vest. See, it's also polyester and quilted with polyester insulation. And if I'm wearing the two of these things, I'll be quite comfortable all the way down into the lower 30s, you know, getting close to freezing. And I'll be fine with something like this on. I don't have to worry about it. So, as far as jackets go this year, chances are this might be the only jacket I'll wear. And I'll wear my vest and this cap in unusually warm weather this year, and I'll be perfectly comfortable. If I expect that maybe I'll feel a little cool out there in the morning, I might even just take this vest along, put it in my backpack, attached to my hunting stool, and I can slip it on sometime out there if I need to. But boy, this jacket and this thing will take care of me all the way down to freezing. Also, lightweight gloves. You know, in this kind of warmer weather, I'll wear lightweight cotton gloves like these, and that's about it. And then I'm all set. Now, in really warm weather, I might wear just a pair of jeans for pants. And if it's cooler, probably if it's going to be in the 30s or low 40s today, I'll probably put my woolen bibs on. Now, here's my woolen bibs. You know, I bought these back in the 1970s. They've been around a long time. And they're tough pants. They've outlasted me through all kinds of miserable weather. And they're a bit resistant to rain. You know, it can be raining lightly, and it takes a long time for these things to become really soaked. And so they're kind of resistant, water resistant, always have been. But I love these pants. Instead of wearing my heavier bibs, which I'll show you in a little bit, I can get around in those middle temperatures when it's down to 0, down to even maybe 5 below zero, I can be comfortable out there with proper underwear underneath. Now let's talk about underwear. Nowadays, this is an example of my favorite underwear. This is tops and bottoms. These things are 100% cotton. The reason I have to wear underwear like this is because I've grown allergic to latex, which is found in those little bands around the necks of every t-shirt you buy, and around the ends of the sleeves has latex in there that gives it the elastic. And on underwear, the latex around your waist to hold up the bottoms and things like that. And I start itching at those points. It gets to be almost unbearable after a few hours. So I have to wear 100% cotton underwear. And these are made for winter wear. They're honeycombed and they're fairly warm in above zero temperatures. Now, if I'm thinking I have to get out there sometime during the day, or I'm getting out there on a day when it's really going to be cold, I'll wear 2 pair. See, I can put this pair on, and then I can put on polyester underwear, some of the thermal stuff. I have several grades, light, medium, and heavy duty thermal underwear that I can put on over my cotton underwear. And there have been days where I've worn 3 different pair of that kind of underwear because it was going to be way below zero while I was out there. Last year, on the day, a couple of years ago, on the day that this picture was taken on the front of my 10th edition of Whitetail Hunter's Almanac, it was 6 below all day. And that day I wore my warmest clothes. And underneath of it I wore 2 pair of underwear. Think of your underwear as the clothing that really keeps you warm. And polyester is really good at it because, like I mentioned, if you perspire while you're moving, the polyester will soak it up and it'll dry very quickly. Where cotton, if you perspire a lot, it's going to stay damp until you get back to camp at noon or in the evening. You're going to have damp underwear on. I can have the polyester over it, but it'll still be damp there. And if you're sitting really still for several hours out there in the woods and you have damp underwear, that can get to be really uncomfortable. You start shivering. Pretty soon, you know, you're shivering, your jaw's shivering. Now, I can put up with shivering for 1 or 2 hours at a stand site, but there comes a point where I've had to get up and get back to camp, get warmed up, and get some dry underwear on. And cotton is bad for that. It'll hold the moisture. But the polyester over it helps to get rid of it. But anyway, so one of the things I'm always thinking about, the clothing I wear when deer hunting is, don't perspire. I have to dress in a way that helps to keep me from perspiring excessively while hiking to a stand site or hiking back, whenever I'm on the move, on foot. So my cold weather clothing is designed for that. Now, I mentioned putting on a pair of polyester underwear before you go out. That's one layer you can put on. If it's going to be colder, like say below zero that day, you might want to wear 2 pair. And let's say it's 10 below or 15 below, you might want to wear 3 pair. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's lightweight, good insulation for the time you're out there. And there's another kind of underwear that has silver thread in it. And my oldest son, John, really loves them because he's found that whereas he could wear ordinary long underwear, deer hunting, in a day, and he'll learn that by the end of the day, it doesn't smell that great anymore. And think about that when you're buying the stuff that's supposed to eliminate human odors. Well, the other one is when he wears the silver threaded underwear, he said he can go 5 days, and it still doesn't smell particularly strong. You know, human odors haven't really developed very much, so I don't know what the chemistry would be that is involved there, but apparently it's a good way to help suppress human odors. But keep in mind always, whatever you use to suppress human odors, and it's always good to do that because whitetails will react with less alarm when they smell you if you don't smell much. But whatever you use, it's never going to be 100%. The silver threads are said to kill bacteria, and apparently that happens. I didn't realize that. Now, if you think underwear isn't going to be enough, it's going to be really frigid out there, you might think about wearing polyester sweats, sweatpants and sweatshirt. Think of your underwear as your major way to keep warm, and the stuff on top of it, your major way to keep older bucks from identifying you. How about that? We'll talk more about that here in a minute. One thing before I go on, I should mention that polyester is really great for deer hunting. Rayon isn't. In fact, it's not good for bear even. Let me explain. Some years ago I was field testing a new camo suit, jacket and pants, and I was bear hunting. I was sitting in a tree stand overlooking a bait site. And about 2:30 in the afternoon, this young bear, it was a sub-adult, probably didn't weigh more than 150 pounds, was coming toward me, walking toward me, and I didn't move. I just sat there because I didn't intend to fire an arrow at that small bear. So I just froze and watched it, and about 30 yards away, it suddenly stopped, turned, and ran like crazy away from me. And that was really unusual. Bears don't have great vision, and to have a bear do something like that really bugged me. And I was kind of worried about that to begin with because, the sun was shining on this suit that I was wearing. And the suit was about 40% nylon or rayon or nylon. Either one, it doesn't matter which one you use, but those particular fabrics will reflect sunlight. That kind of fabric's made with high percentage that will reflect sunlight. And it's almost like you're out there with blaze orange clothing on when you're trying to, be invisible to a bear. And that bear saw that. And then later on in the afternoon, a large bear came down the same path toward me, and that was one that easily would have went over 300 pounds. And it stopped about 40 yards away and then turned and went down fairly fast. It didn't run, but it walked fast into a big spruce bog and disappeared in there. Well, with that, I knew I'd never have a chance to take that bear at that particular stand site again. He wasn't going to take any more chances on that. So I got down, went home. Rayon and nylon don't wick the moisture away. It just stays there on your skin. And like I say, if you've got wet skin in a tree stand, you're sitting there for hours and it's cold. Boy, you're going to be miserable. You're going to be shivering in no time. Polyester's great, but kind of make sure that whatever you buy, the fabric is soft on the outside so it doesn't reflect sunlight. Now, blaze orange does. It reflects sunlight. Boy, when sun shines on a shirt like this one, but you hardly see that one. This is part of my layering. This is this shirt is my lightest one, the lightest weight polyester shirt that I wear when it's warm out. And the reason I wear it is because after I field dress a deer and I leave it there to go back to camp to get help to bring it in, drag it in, get the sled and get a bunch of several guys come and drag it out for me. They won't let me do it anymore, but I always take my shirt off and hang it on a branch right next to the carcass of the buck I shot. And I learned up in the Yukon on a hunt up there many years ago that when you do that, wolves won't touch the carcass for a day or two or three, but they won't come close to it if it's got human odor on that shirt. So this shirt has hung in the woods, got left alone in the woods quite a few times, and then going back to get the deer, you could see it way over there, see my shirt hanging in the tree. I'll tell the guys too, be sure to bring my shirt. So anyway, that's my lightweight one, part of my layering. Now this one is also polyester, but it's heavier and it's smooth. And so on some days I might think, I'm going to wear the lightest shirt possible, like this one. And other days I'm going to wear a heavier one as part of my layering. Well, I have in my arms my ultimate warm clothes for deer hunting. This suit of this coat and these bibs cost me a lot of money. They're waterproof, they're windproof, they're well quilted with insulation, and they're really wonderful. In that picture I showed you on the book, that day it was 6 below. That was a high of 6 below zero. And the wind was blowing from the north, and boy, it was cold out there. And the picture was taking me coming down the trail when I finally couldn't stand it anymore in the middle of the afternoon. I stayed there longer because I was seeing deer there. This is the outfit that's kept me warm in the most severe weather. Let me show you a little bit about it. The pants are kind of interesting, you know. What I was mentioned earlier is that whatever I wear, I worry about perspiring on the way to a stand site. Don't want to perspire. And whoever designed these bibs had that in mind, because you can open the zippers on the thing, on the legs. See, the legs can open wide open like that on both sides. And so your legs can be, you can have cold air circulating around your legs the whole way to your stand site. And then to keep from flapping around while you're walking, I'll usually snap the bottom snap up so it doesn't flap around when you're walking on both legs like that. And that really works well, keeping my legs cool all the way to the stand. Now, I can't do that with my coat. There have been a lot of days when it was below zero, well below, on really cold, rigid days. Rather than put this coat on before I leave camp, I'll stuff it into that pack sack attached to my hunting stool. And then I'll slip it on, maybe when I'm within 100 yards somewhere of getting to my stand site. I'll put it on loosely without zipping it shut, because by that time I'm warm. But I've taken off from camp on a lot of occasions with just blazer orange shirt on top, and then my woolen pants on the bottom, and with my coat stuffed in my pack sack. So the only blazer orange showing was from my shirt and my cap, which was legal. Anyway, but this thing is really warm, and you can't, if you're going to be wearing this in the woods, usually when I'm on the move, I don't zip the thing shut at all. I leave it wide open. In fact, a lot of days, even on the coldest day, I don't zip it shut till maybe hours after I've arrived at the stand. And boy, it keeps me warm. And it's got a hood, and that'll keep me dry. One thing about this suit, though, the dry part is underneath this outer fabric somewhere. And because of that, if you're out there in the rain, this outer fabric can get to be wet. But the wetness never gets all the way through to where you are. But boy, it gets heavy. This bibs and those pants can get to be pretty heavy when they're damp like that. And consequently, every day during the hunting, especially if there's snow, it's snowing, or there's light rain coming down or whatever, these things are going to have to be dried. And I have to hang them in camp. Now, one of the most important pieces of furniture in our big tents at night is a drying rack. Let me show you. You know, it's easy to make one. I've made several of them over the years. But being able to dry your clothes, your coat, pants, things of that sort, is important. Having dry clothes in the morning is important. You don't want to start out in wet clothes in the morning. So you have to be able to dry your clothes. So even the best of stuff that is, you know, best clothing costs hundreds of dollars, needs to be dried now and then. That's a normal thing. And if you perspired at all, and the inner part, that inner fabric was damp at all, that could be damp as well from your own perspiration. And it might be wicked away from you by those layers I got underneath there. but that can end up kind of damp feeling in the evening. Now when I get back to camp each day, I always change and take off the coat and pants and more. Now at noon we usually have a cold lunch, so we aren't cooking. You aren't going to get any cooking odors on your clothing, and we don't cook in the morning either. It's cold breakfast every morning. But in the evening, we cook and eat big sumptuous meals, like barbecued ribs and steaks and all kinds of good meals then. But I always change to camp clothes, down to the underwear, the first underwear on. And those things go in my pickup at night, unless they're damp. But I bring them in after we're all done with the meals, dishes taken care of, no more cooking odors in there. Then you can bring them in and hang them on this rack. Let me show you how I make a rack, And, in my tent, there can be 6 guys in there. And when this rack gets full, that's an awful lot of clothing hanging on the rack. And my son John, all by himself, can commonly use half of it. And so there has to be a lot of room on my rack. Okay, usually I'll cut. The last time I built one, I made it out of young sugar maples. And maple lasts for years and years and years. I sometimes have made it with poplar or quaking aspen. And easy to use and have lots of it to use. But if you get 3 years out of one made of aspen, you're lucky. But one made of maple, that goes on and on forever. But I'll make 2 parts that look like that, like an A. 2 of those. And I'll put one over here and here, like that. And usually it's about 2-inch diameter stuff. It might be up 2.5 at the largest ends, like down parts on the floor here. And then after that, I put about a 2 to 3-inch piece across this, where these pieces cross up on top. And everything is nailed together. Some years I've made it with screws, screw everything together. And then in order to make it stable, I'll usually run a piece diagonally from up high on this A down to the bottom on this one, and then similarly I'll do the same thing on the other side, running one down here. So those diagonals will make it very stable under any kind of weight. And it's a very simple rack. And then to this piece here, I'll just put in all kinds of 20-penny nails sticking up on both sides of it. They're sticking up all over the place here, on both sides. And if you need to, you can hang socks on these parts up here, or even the diagonals. But anyway, that's our drying rack. So when it's time to break camp, we take this thing way out in the woods somewhere. It gets a lot to leave personal things in the woods, in the area of a deer camp. You're supposed to leave it spotless, nothing there, and we do. We really make sure the area is really clean before we leave. And so theoretically, that drying rack is, if we leave it behind, it's not something we're supposed to do. But it's so important, and how do you haul home something like that? You can't put it in your trunk, or by the time we load up the trailer, that's pretty full, so that has to stay behind. So if you do leave it, put it where nobody's going to find it until the following year. But drying racks are a really important thing to have in deer camp, especially if you hunt there for any long period of time. If you're just going for a weekend, you still need a drying rack, maybe a smaller one, maybe just a tripod with nails sticking out all the way around. And you can hang your coat, maybe just 2 of you there together. But somehow or another, you've got to be able to make sure your clothes are dry when you go out every morning. And so, drying rack is important to us Nordbergs. So, anyway, it doesn't have to be rained on to need drying. It can be just the moisture coming from your own body, the perspiration, that you hardly feel, but it's there. And it can build up if you don't take care to get rid of it by drying it this way. Okay, we have in our in our deer camp tent, the big ones, barrel wood stoves. Mine is a double barrel wood stove. The top part is a heat exchanger, and I got a platform up top where you can put food to cook or keep coffee hot, that kind of thing. And it stands horizontal to one side of the tent. Underneath of it, we got a heat guard. It goes underneath so you don't overheat your tent floor, maybe char it even, and it protects the tent floor. And then we got two heat guards that stand up on the wall between the stove and the tent wall. And so in the evening, you know, we're all done, we're getting ready to go to bed. We'll take this thing is sitting over against the wall there in one place, usually at the foot of my bed, and between there and the stove it's sitting there. We take that and move it over so it's parallel to one side of the stove, so you have a lot more area being heated. And that's where that goes at night. And then in the morning, then of course we got to move it back out of the way. And the boots go down on the floor, down close to the stove. And if they need any drying out, that usually takes care of them pretty well as well. Okay guys, now we never have a hunting season where we hunt, where we don't have snow or rain. Even rain, you know, whitetails aren't real active with rain as moderate to heavy. But if it's light, you got light rain or drizzle, boy, they love that. They're moving around the woods all over the place during light rains and drizzle. And if you don't hunt when you got light rain or drizzle or fog, oh man, they love fog till it lifts. They're all over the place then. But in their feeding area usually. If you don't hunt during those times, you're missing out on some of your best opportunities to take deer, or maybe a big buck. So you need protection from rain. Now, when I'm wearing my heavy duty stuff, it isn't going to rain, it's going to be snow, but the snow can still accumulate on the outside of that fabric. But like I say, it won't get wet inside, so I usually don't worry about it then. But if you're getting rain, I want to be out there if it's light rain. I don't want to miss a minute of being out there. And that jacket I showed you is water resistant, but it means that it can get wet. And so when it's raining, light rain coming down, I have to have some protection. Now the protection I like best is provided by a separate piece of clothing, a rain jacket. And this rain jacket is not made for deer hunters. This rain jacket is lightweight. Is made for guys that have to work in the rain. It's a work raincoat. And so it's made by a reputable company that makes good stuff, good clothing. And it's one of the best rain jackets I've ever owned. You know, you don't get any leakage around the zipper, around any of the seams on there. It could be raining like crazy, and this can look wet as can be on the outside, but you're dry on the inside. And I love that. It's got a hood on it, so you can cover your head as well and put your camo cap on top over the hood, so you're protected that way. But so I wear this. Now that doesn't add a lot of weight to what I'm wearing out there. Now let's say it rained last night, so you get up in the morning and it's not raining anymore, but the woods is wet, soggy. There's wet leaves, branches hanging every which way along your trail and on your way to your tree stand. And so when it's like that, I gotta wear rain pants as well. And along with this jacket, for my legs, I'll pull on a pair of old rain pants that I've had for years. They're black, kind of a fabric type pants. Fairly common in sporting goods stores. But anyway, between the two of them, I can go up there. Now, you know, for years say we got light rain or drizzle coming down, I look for a big evergreen. And you can sit under there, and if the wind isn't blowing, the water goes out to the end of the branches and drips out there away from you, and you can stay fairly dry under an evergreen tree. They aren't always in the right place. And when you're sitting there, the places that, if you don't have protection, that get rained on, or get wet first, are your shoulders and top of your thighs. They'll be wet before you know And I hate that. I've put sheets of plastic over my thighs to help keep them dry while I'm sitting out there, but it's just not the best way to go. So I like to have a pair of rain pants I can wear, pull on easily, nice roomy things with I pull them on with my boots on, get them all up with just an elastic band around the top to hold them up. Then, let it rain. You can stay there, and by golly, you know, if you can sit very still in one of those kind of places next to a feeding area while light rain is falling, or drizzle, or it's foggy, you're going to see deer. I mean, that's such a good time to be out there. So prepare yourself to be able to hunt in that time. If you're gun hunting, of course, you got to wear your Camo Blazer orange vest, or your Blazer orange vest, whichever you prefer. I like the camo because there's less for a big buck to see when you're as hidden as well as you can out in the woods. A buck coming your way, so. But you got to wear that. But that's easy enough to do. You know, there's one other thing. We mentioned this before in a previous seminar, and I showed you what it looks like. But nowadays, I tend to think in terms of wearing clothing that's an actual blind. It's a one-man blind. This ghillie suit goes on my legs over whatever I'm wearing. I can have, you know, a rain suit on, or I can have my woolen pants, or I can have one of those heavier sweatpants on, that kind of thing. There's a lot of room in this thing. I can pull that on over that. And underneath my vest I can wear the top, and it's got a hood on it, and I can put the hood up and wear my cap over the hood, and I'm all set. And when I'm wearing that, and the only blazer I'm showing is what you see on this vest and my cap, that's pretty tremendous. I've got different caps for different weather. You know, for warm weather I got a cap like this, and that's just fine. Yours are not covered or anything. I don't like to wear it around deer camp, and I get in a cap, I put on a camp cap. A plain one like that. Makes it really easy for me to see while I'm around camp. And then if it's really cold, I wear this Camo Blazer orange cap. And it's got ear flaps on it. And I can pull those down. But normally I also wear a head net, you know, to hide the skin on my face. And you know, it's surprising when a head net, where it's got a hole for your eyes or it doesn't, it's solid netting, it helps to keep your head and face warm. It really does. It's kind of a being inside of a tent. And you know, your face and neck will feel much warmer when you're wearing one. So anyway, so caps. Now let's talk about hands. In my recent seminar about hunting boots, I mentioned that, you know, I hunted for years and years and years with frozen feet during November hunting seasons. It was just part of hunting. You just had to put up with frozen feet until I finally found a pair of one of today's modern hunting boots, lightweight boots with 1,000 grams of insulation in them. And by golly, they really solved the problem. I have not had cold feet even on 6 below. On any day I can be out there for hours and hours with nothing but a pair of cotton socks on inside those boots. Wonderful boots. Boy, so if you hunt in cold country, gee, consider boots like that have 1,000, and now you can get 1,200 grams boots. Boy, they'd be nice and warm. You won't have that problem in there. You can't be a good buck hunter if you're squirming, if you're uncomfortable, if you're freezing or too hot or whatever. Wind is killing you. You can't be a good buck hunter if you're moving around a lot at your stand site. You got to be able to sit for hours without hardly even moving. Most of your eyes, you turn your head very slowly, looking from left to right. You're only concentrating on this area. Forget that area back there. Deer 200 yards away are smelling you, and they're not going to come up here. Maybe some foolish fawn or yearling might, but not older bucks. Just forget that. But they could come from the sides, come close to where you are. So anyway, you want to be warm. Now, hands are still a problem. I use hand warmers a lot more than I used to. In my old age, I'm getting smart about hand warmers. But you know, I paid a lot of money for these gloves here, and they're insulated and all that. But I've never been out there on a really cold day where I didn't ball my fingers up, thumb, into a fist underneath the glove to keep them warm. Because those insulated fingertips are not keeping my fingers warm on a really cold day. So they're all right when you're walking through the woods and that kind of thing. It's really cold. But once you stop and you're sitting there for a while, even these that cost me a lot of money won't keep my hands warm. Now, when it's fairly warm, I mean, let's say it's 70 degrees out there this morning, you still got to wear gloves. You can't have that color hands moving around within sight of any deer, because deer are going to spot that motion so quick, just boom, because your hands don't blend at all with the surroundings, your surroundings with natural foliage or tree trunks or whatever. That's readily spotted when it's moving. That's why you wear a head net, to keep them from recognizing your face and your head. And anyway, so I wear cotton gloves all the time, even real warm weather. When I'm bow hunting, I wore cotton gloves. You know, I use a wrist attached arrow release, so I didn't need any fingers on the string or that thing when it came to draw. But by golly, you gotta wear gloves, and these cheap cotton gloves are just fine on warm days. Now, when it's really cold, we're having problems. A muff. I carry this thing in the pack on my hunting stool in cold weather all the time. It isn't there every day, but when I expect the temperature to get down around freezing, I'll bring this muff with me. It's got a strap, you can attach it to your waist and carry it that way, but I'd rather carry it in my pack, which I do. But gee, it's got a pocket here for hand warmers, but what I usually do is put 1 or 2 hand warmers inside where my hands are. And you can put that on with those cotton gloves on. Real cool weather. And it's so easy to slip your hands out of there and get your bow up or your arrow, your gun up to shoot. And your hands are covered when you do that. But I kind of almost hate to say it, you know. Nothing beats a muff, a well-insulated muff, for keeping your hands warm in really cold weather. You're sitting still in the stand side. So what I wear nowadays really keeps me nice and warm. Now I have one more thing. When I mentioned you can't wear just one coat or one set of boots for an entire hunting season, maybe you can down south, you know, maybe in South Carolina or Texas, somewhere like that you can. But up here in the North Country, it's just impossible to keep yourself really comfortable in a tree stand or on the ground level stand site wearing one set of clothes for the whole season. Or let's say you hunt 2 weekends. Boy, one first weekend might be mild, the next one really cold. Well, but anyway, so there's a reason for layering and having several ways to keep warm during the hunting season, like I've been doing. It took me years to come to this, but I finally did. And then I have another pair of clothes for camp clothes. I gotta go out and get an armload of wood for the stove or something like that, go out and get something for my truck. I don't want to be walking around my camp without displaying blaze orange. And then, like say, when I get back to camp and I got a few guys that are gonna bring in my buck for me, I go along, carry rifles, and or at least one rifle, all the way, and camera and all those kind of things, and a camera to talk about, you know, how this deer was taken and why and things like that. Well, anyway, so I got another set of clothes for that. This kind of utility camp clothes, and this is solid blaze orange in the camp. Nobody's going to mistake me for a deer walking on up there. So I have cap goes in it. I love this vest. It's all polyester again. It's soft liner. It's got a hood on it. So if the wind's blowing, snow, sheets of snow flying past in front, this feels mighty good. You slip your boots on and go out and get the wood or whatever. So you need that too. So it doesn't have to be anything excessive. It's really cold. I've got an older hunting jacket that I include in my pack, and I'll put that on. Really cold weather. So anyway, so there you are. You know, if you're a young guy and you're just starting out, you're probably thinking, oh my. But think about the kind of temperatures you're going to have when you hunt. You know, every year, before our hunting season begins, we're getting close, we're a week away. There's two things I check. First of all, the long-range forecast for weather. Rain, snow, how cold it's going to be. And that helps me decide what kind of clothing I'm going to take. I don't always take everything with me, but this, what I showed you today, is pretty much it. And you know, I have a big waterproof bag, zipper bag, that I can stick the whole shooting match in there and put that in the truck for the trip north to our hunting area. But eventually it all gets removed from there. I can store it in the back seat of my crew cab on hangers or in the bag when I'm not using it. But at any rate, so I know about what the temperature and the weather's going to be like. But another thing I always want to know is when the moon's going to come up and when it's going to go down. And so that's another thing I always check, because whitetails are always most active during the dark of the moon. They call it the period of the new moon. And I always want to know that. But these weather things, I have it all figured out on charts before I even come to deer camp. So by checking the weather before you go, that way you can be sure you're going to have clothing adequate for what's going to be happening weather-wise when you're hunting. And that's a good idea to do that. But don't, you know, in this North Country, don't think just one pair of pants, one shirt, one coat, one pair of boots is going to be all you need to go deer hunting. It's going to eventually, you know, it might take a few years to accumulate what you got to buy, but think that way. Think of layering each day, you know, adding 10 degrees of warmth with a vest or something of that sort. If you do that, you're going to be a better buck hunter. I'll cover the weather forecasts, you know, how different weather conditions affect whitetails and how you hunt them under those conditions, and moonlight in detail in another future seminar. That's about all I can tell you about clothing to wear during hunting seasons. And here we are now, we're coming up, in about 5 weeks, I'm going to be in deer camp. And I don't know where you hunt, but maybe you will be too. So not much time left now. If you don't, if you have yet to learn all the crazy things they aren't crazy, they're real, and a lot of research 61 years of research went into these things. If you're going to learn these things that will help enable you to take big bucks, it's like take a big buck this year, get busy and order my 10th edition of Whitetail Hunter's Almanac. Everything you need to know is in there. Sure, I'm doing research yet. I'm sure I'm learning new things. But what you learn in here is enough to make you a regularly successful buck hunter. Wouldn't you like that? You really would, wouldn't you? So, for less than the cost of bullets these days, you can learn how to make each one of those bullets count for you in future hunting seasons. So do that. Do yourself a favor and become as good as Dr. Norbert, maybe better, because you got more bucks where you live than I do. Become as good at hunting older bucks, and this book will help you to make sure you can do that. So, well, one other thing. Now be sure to subscribe if you can. That's important to me as a speaker on YouTube. And also that thumbs up button, poke that thumbs up thing for me. A special favor I'm asking you for. And do that. And with that, I'll see you again soon. Be sure to visit my website. Here's the link. Here you'll find links to my blog posts, my Twitter account, my YouTube account, my Amazon store with links to my ebooks, my son's eBay store, a money saver if you're ordering from Canada or other countries, my website bookstore, and much more.